In narcissistic family systems, there are 4 roles that narcissistic parents place their children in. And I did another video about this, so I recommend you go watch that to understand the roles. But today I'm going to be talking about the characteristics of the invisible child and giving you some information to help you heal if this is the role that you've been placed in. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth. I'm a transpersonal psychologist, holistic nutritional chef, and best-selling author of Get Well Now, Healing Yourself with Food and the Power of the Mind. And I help wounded ACONs, adult children of narcissists, to become healed icons. And what's an icon? An icon is somebody who's independent, confident, original, and naturally you. Those are the things that we get divided from being raised by narcissistic parents. So I help you find who you are, answer those big questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of my life? And we do it in a holistic way, mental, emotional, physical, energetic, and spiritual, because all those parts of the self get wounded. So in this video, I said I was going to talk about the invisible child. All of the roles are hard. The invisible child role is particularly difficult in that you constantly get the message and the belief, and this is the really hard part to overcome. I'm just going to give you this right up front, that you don't matter. And it's more than you don't matter. It's almost as if you don't exist. I mean, certainly you will exist when a new rule needs to be established, or when you need to be put in your place by the narcissistic parent, when you need to be belittled or shamed or criticized or even scapegoated, because you have to remember that these roles in narcissistic family systems do change based on the narcissistic parent and what's important to them, because it's all about them. So these characteristics of the invisible child. First one I'm going to talk about is you think you're not important. Well, of course you think you're not important in a narcissistic family system when you're the invisible child, because you're treated like you're not important. Very often, the invisible child will try to speak up and get dismissed or completely ignored altogether. They may get ignored in a text chat thread where they have an idea to present to other family members, and then it's completely just overlooked. It's not even addressed. No one says anything. And what happens in these family systems is that everybody gets trained into which role each child is in. And so you will treat that person accordingly as the sibling and not even know that you're doing it. Everybody gets trained to treat that invisible child as though they're invisible, that they don't matter, what they have to say is not important, which is a message you're going to get no matter what role you're in the narcissistic family system. But they will send you into that level, or that idea of you being very important to the system, if you are doing something that is bringing narcissistic supply, or as I like to just say, energy to the narcissistic parent. And that's really what they're looking for. They're looking for that energy that you're supplying to them. So that message that you're not important into adulthood makes you keep yourself small. You may have something incredible to contribute to the world, but you don't see yourself as being important, or that you have anything important, or that you even have talents. You don't see those talents in yourself. Other people may be telling you them, but you don't receive the compliment because you don't believe them. Why would you believe that? I mean, you've been told over and over again, you're a bad person, you don't matter, you don't have anything important to say. So why would you believe their compliments? So that's programming that I'm talking about. You've been programmed by a con person, a con man or woman. You have been conned by your narcissistic parent. You're an ACON who's been conned into believing all these things about yourself that simply aren't true. The second thing that you will do as the invisible child in a narcissistic family system is that you will keep your feelings to yourself because you believe they are not valid. So you have a hard time expressing how you feel to people. You may not even be able to put it into words. Or you may blurt things out that you didn't mean to say and then get in trouble for saying that thing, because it seemed like it came out of nowhere. Invisible children are very often really nice people and often very quiet and introverted people. They will believe that saying how they feel about something, inserting their opinion, is not valid. They were told over and over again and shown over and over again they weren't valid. So why would their opinion be valid? And even if you did express opinions as a child or growing up in a narcissistic family system, or even as an adult, it would get dismissed, belittled, shamed, and ignored. So you learn that, and you get to a point where you just don't even share. So you don't bother. Or if you do share and you try to help, if you're an overhelper, like many of us ACONs are, they'll shut you down for helping. And so you'll just be sad and upset all the time trying to deal with a narcissistic family system and being shut down for trying to help. That you learn, and actually this is good advice, is you'll learn to stop helping, stop over helping, because they're not going to hear you anyway. And then use that beautiful heart of yours to help other people who really want and desire and need your help, who welcome your help, who welcome you with open arms. So learning to express your feelings is going to be a very important part of becoming you in your healing pathway when you're raised by a narcissistic parent. Another thing that's, of course, very obvious when you're raised by a narcissistic parent and you are the invisible child, one of the characteristics of invisible children is that you will have a hard time being visible or being seen. Now, you might be okay in a certain arena of your life, something where you feel like you've really worked hard to build some expertise, but very often being seen is terrifying, because if you were seen in the narcissistic family system, which you were trained not to be seen, and everyone else around you was trained to not see you, it can be dangerous for you if you do speak up or say something. You can trigger a rage response in that narcissistic parent, or even in siblings who are enabling the narcissistic parent, or even the other parent who might be enabling the narcissistic parent. So you're going to learn that being visible is not safe. It's terrifying. It's scary. And so that you may not want to do that. Even if you have something important to share, and I have firsthand experience in this one, being visible on this YouTube channel was so hard for me to do. And I had to overcome that. And I still think about, oh gosh, if someone sees this, the programming is so insidious. And so I want you to know, like, this is something that is real. This is something that these are methods of control that were used to keep you down. And so becoming visible is a very important part of your progress. And that can be, you just start becoming visible with one friend, where you start telling them, hey, this is what happened in my life. My parent is a narcissist, and this is what I deal with still, or this is what I've dealt with my whole life. It's so important to start speaking up. It's so hard because I call it all the time a prison of silence that you've been placed in by that narcissistic parent. And it can be so, so hard to allow yourself to speak up. But visibility and speaking up and being truthful and honest about who you are, what you've been through, that is empowering. And that is something that will help you heal. And it also will help you build confidence. Another thing that you may do as the adult child of a narcissistic parent who is the invisible child is that you may put the needs of others before your own. And you may be really running on this belief that everyone else is more important than me, and that you have to take care of everyone else. The narcissistic parent puts you in the position where you have to take care of them. They want you to take care of them emotionally, physically, mentally. They want you to be their little servant, and they continue expecting that kind of treatment as they age and into their elder years. They're going to want you to jump through those hoops to take care of them. And that's really the thing with the invisible child, is they'll use you for their gain. Whenever they need you, they'll use you. And they know typically that you're nice and empathetic and caring. And so they'll take advantage of that. And then you'll think, oh, wow, there's my nice parent. when they're not actually really nice. They're just manipulating you into getting what they want. And that's really hard to swallow. That's really hard to accept about your narcissistic parent. So, what I'm talking about basically is that they train you into being a codependent person. And what that means is that you will be taking care of the needs of other people before you do anything for yourself. And in fact, you won't even know how to put yourself first. And that's the key to healing right there. So just know that when you start to learn to put yourself first, which is super hard to do for the invisible child, for adult children of narcissists in general, you will feel so much better, so much better. You'll feel so much more empowered. You'll have a lot more energy available to you to do the things that you want to do in your life. And so that's incredible. So, if this information is really resonating with you, and if you see yourself in what I'm saying, I have this big channel here with hundreds of videos for you to watch to help you heal holistically, mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, and spiritually from the wounds of parental narcissistic abuse. So please please subscribe, and please follow my work. You can go to meghaworth.com, and I have tons of free things on there for you as well. And also, how to work with me, how to get in touch with me, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later in this video. But first, we're going to go a little bit further into these characteristics of the invisible child. So, one of the things that I've already touched on a little bit when you are the adult child of the narcissist, who is the invisible child, you may have difficulty identifying and expressing emotions. Your emotions were not considered valid, they weren't considered important. And so you learned to not ask for things that you needed. You learned not to express, although you might have had things that angered you so much that you had these outbursts, or you challenged that narcissistic parent, and then you ended up in this just knockdown drag out where they just bullied you into submission, and then you're just bawling on the floor. And so this is something that may have occurred over and over and over again, even as the invisible child, because you're supposed to be invisible. You're not supposed to talk back. You're not supposed to say what you think. You're not supposed to hold an opinion. You're not supposed to be a person. You're not supposed to be yourself. And so when you think about what that does, many of us end up really clamming up and not saying how we feel because we find out that that's dangerous. And then we may decide that emotions are dangerous. And so we don't want to feel them, and we don't want to express them. We don't want to identify them. And it's going to be very important in your healing process to learn to identify your emotions. Your emotions are empowering for you. I think our emotions are here to teach us about who we really are. And that if we would only listen to what these emotions have to say, which is how I developed whole person integration technique, was to really learn to listen to that subconscious emotional response that you have. Because when you press down your emotions, when you suppress them, they will come out in other ways. And then, you may yell at somebody, you may do something that you regret, you may say something you regret, and then feel bad about it. The good news is, if you feel bad about it, that's a good sign. That means that you have a conscience and you care. And then you can go make apology. A narcissistic person will not be able to do that. They will not be able to be introspective and be able to look at themselves and learn, heal, and grow from the things that their mistakes. They don't make mistakes, so they're right all the time and you're wrong. Unless, of course, you agree with them, and then that's a different thing. So learning to express your emotions, to identify your emotions, can be incredibly powerful, and it is powerful. And this is one of the keys to healing from the wounds of parental narcissistic abuse and from the wounds of being the invisible child. Another thing that you may do as an adult child of a narcissist, an ACON who has been conned into believing so many things about themselves that are not true. And if you were chosen as the invisible child and you were treated as though you don't matter, you were dismissed, belittled, put on the back burner, ignored, and you continue to be ignored in adulthood, this can create an issue where you isolate yourself too much. You may become a homebody, which can be nice and comforting and lovely, but you may not put yourself out there, or it's terrifying to put yourself out there because you truly believe that you don't have anything important to say. No one wants to hear what you have to say, and you don't speak up and express yourself. So part of coming out of this shell, part of learning to heal from being an invisible child and the wounds that that creates in you is to learn to reach out, is to learn to get involved in things, to get involved in groups, to join clubs, to get out there and start to let people get to know you. But you're going to first need to really get to know you and who you are. And this is something I help people do in my Iconic Me coaching program. It's therapy and coaching that we do one-on-one. And I have a 3-month and a 6-month program. And you can book a free consultation with me to learn more about that and to see if we're a good fit to work with each other. So if this stuff is resonating with you, just think about that and see what you might want to do around that. So isolating yourself can be really terrible for you. You can be keeping yourself from bringing more love into your life. You can be keeping yourself from having really enriching relationships, from having beautiful, enriching experiences because you're isolating yourself too much. It's one of the big dangers of being the adult child who was chosen, literally chosen as the invisible child in your family system. Another thing you might be really at risk for when you were raised by a narcissistic parent, you're an adult child of a narcissist, an ACON who's been conned into believing so many lies, and you were chosen as the invisible child, is that you may have high risk addictive behaviors. And you enter into those addictive behaviors to cover the pain, to cover the shame. You may be sitting in isolation, drinking every night, online shopping, getting that little dopamine hit, feeling a little better, a little, happy for 20 minutes when that buzz begins. But then you'll start getting more and more drunk, trying to check out to cover the pain. You may be using relationships as a way to cover the pain, being codependent, focusing on everyone else and not taking care of yourself. That's an addictive behavior, believe it or not. There's so many different types of addiction. There's drug addiction, prescription drug addiction, ways that you are checking out and not really fully taking responsibility for yourself and self-care and self-love. There's a reparenting that needs to go on. And it's a reparenting you're going to do for yourself, because you're never going to have that narcissistic parent be the parent you want them to be. And that's part of the healing process, is to really learn to accept that this is how it's going to be with them, but that you can change you. And that's the hope I want to give you. I mean, I healed over a dozen illnesses in my own body, working with the food to help support my body to heal itself. So nutrition, which really helps you heal rapidly. It's pretty amazing. But I also worked with the mental and the emotional, energetic and spiritual. So I worked with the entire holistic system to help release myself, to release from my physical body those thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that were stuck in my field and stuck in my body and were making me sick and keeping me sick. I don't want you to be sick. I want you to be well. And so I want to help you get well now. So I hope this information has been really helpful for you. Like I said, you can book a free consultation with me if that speaks to you. And then I have my online courses, Healing the 5 Primary Wounds of Parental Narcissistic Abuse. I have my online course with the Shift Network that you can take anytime you want. I have my 2 seasons of the Toxic Parent Recovery Summit that you can still purchase on my website. If you get on my email list, you get a free 52 ways to tell if your parent is a narcissist checklist, which you may need reminders. It's hard to wake up to your parent being a narcissist. And it also helps you see like, wow, okay, it's true. It really did happen. My parent is narcissistic. So I hope this information has really helped you. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth, and I hope that you will get well now.